Hello there. I see you've stumbled upon my chicken-legged hut. Why don't you come in and we can show you what we've been brewing up?
In this video, we will be building this tiny wizard tower from scratch, using polymer clay and small fake birdhouse. Then we will be making a silicone mold of the tower that we can use to cast decorative wizard tower candles. This was very long and tedious process, as well as our first time attempting to make a silicone mold. And let me just say, it turns into a real show. But we'll get to that later. To start out, we had to build our wizard tower. This part took most of the day to complete. It was by far the most tedious part. The first thing we had to do was get drink of water for this old clay, before we could use small metal contraption to turn clay into one long brick noodle. This part of the process had to be repeated several times. We then had to take each brick noodle and cut it into small individual bricks.
122 to be exact.
How do you?
I counted in my spare time.
Fair. So with that being said, we won't bore you with the hours of footage we have of cutting each individual brick, and instead, we will smash cut to a classic 80s montage of this tiny tower's creation. Once our tower was finished, we had to build a small containment device for the casting process.
Small contain? You mean the box?
Yes, the box. And since it's the least interesting part of this whole project, we will spare your eyeballs the strain of another 80s montage. And instead, we will jump to the cluster. That was our first attempt at making a silicone mold. Mr. Freeman, would you take over? I don't want to live through this again.
I suppose I could wrap it up from here. So the first big mistake that was made in this process was not properly securing the tower to the bottom of the box. This one tiny detail would later cause what some experts might call a mental breakdown. We would call it a mild panic attack as our wizard tower emerges from the silicone sea like some kind of dwarven submarine. This catches us completely off guard because, hey, it's not supposed to do that.
So now we had to try and salvage as much of the silicone as we could,
as well as come up with a better way to keep this wizard tower in place.
This wouldn't have been so bad if it wasn't for the second mistake we made,
which was using these tiny cups. I mean, we had to mix up 5 cups of this stuff, which took forever because of how thorough you have to be when mixing it.
It would have been so much easier if we had a larger mixing container.
Not to mention the time we could have saved. Oh well, lesson learned, I suppose.
Now we clean up this box, get ready to try again. This time we use hot glue to keep the wizard tower in place,
giving it a little tug to make sure it's actually secured this time. And now that this isn't going anywhere, we could begin the casting process all over again. Luckily, the second attempt went significantly smoother than the first one, minus still having to use those tiny cups. I mean, come on, just look at how ridiculous that is.
And then there's the mixing. My God, so much mixing.
Oh, and guess what? We still need another cup after this one. So 7 cups total of this 1-to-1 silicone mix, instead of just 1 big cup. Sigh. Thank the gods we are finally done with this step. Now we just have to wait for this silicone to cure and hope like hell nothing else goes wrong.
Now that nightmare is over with, you may return to your chores, Mr. Freeman. I'll take it from here.
Are you sure? I really don't mind narrating.
I am sure, Mr. Freeman. The chickens are not going to feed themselves.
But I hate feeding the chickens. They're little, and they always attack me.
Now where were we? Ah yes, removing the tower from the mold. This proved to be a challenge for these two, as they spent way too much time trying to pull and pry the tower free, which was clearly never going to work because of the shape of the tower. This ultimately led us to cutting into one side of the mold to help provide some relief for the tower's removal. We were trying to avoid doing this originally since we would be filling it with hot wax, but there was clearly no way around it. After just a little more prying, they were finally able to get the tower out and see what the results were. Looks pretty good, but let's put it to the real test. On our first test run of the Wizard Tower mold, we kept it simple and went with a single color pour, while also making a minor change to our original scent. We used a layer of tape to cover our incision, as well as a couple pieces wrapped around to help keep it sealed. We wanted to try to prevent as much wax from escaping the mold as possible during its long cooling process. Luckily, the walls of this mold are fairly thick and stayed together very well throughout the entire process. Finally, we added our new combination of scents for our Wizard Tower vibe, as well as our dye to the hot wax, and give it a good stirring to really blend the scents and dye with the wax, before pouring it into our mold. Nothing left to do now, but wait for it to harden. While pouring the first candle, we have the idea to pour a version with a colored roof and a stone-colored base. However, due to my assistant's subpar skills and lack of patience, both of these attempts turned out somewhat defective, which led to us adding an additional step to this project to try and hide our little mistake, but we will get to that part in a second. On the first attempt, we wanted to go with a red for the roof and a gray for the brick walls. This is where the mistake occurs. See, what my assistant is currently unaware of is that below the thin layer of hardened wax is a small pool of still hot liquid wax that's about to turn that gray into more of a pink. On our second attempt, we went with a green for the roof and tried to go with a brown for the brick walls. This is where my assistant's subpar skill level comes in. You see, he still hasn't quite figured out how to correctly dye a wax, and is often fooled by the color of the hot wax. So instead of brown bricks, we ended up with what also looks like pinkish bricks. I should have them look into alternative methods for dyeing wax.
Maybe one of them know a more efficient technique.
That's a good point. If you know a better way to dye candle wax, please let us know in the comments.
Personally, I think it's funnier watching them to bed.
While I don't fully disagree with you, I would still like to see them improve. But if they keep messing up...
And it's into the soup with them.
What? No. Well, maybe. We'll see. But for now, nobody goes in the soup.
I'm back from feeding those infernal horrors you call chickens.
Are we sure? Nobody can go in the soup.
Donnie, shut up. I've lost track of where we are.
It looks like he's removing the first candle they made from the mold.
I'm pretty sure they forgot to record removing the other ones as well.
In the soup with them?
No.
Are we having soup tonight or something?
Ha ha ha.
Okay, now that this madhouse has been fed, I can properly finish this video. This is the part where we put a layer of paint over our candles to cover up our mistake. We used our first candle as a test model before painting the other ones. We figured since they were decorative and probably wouldn't be lit, a small layer of paint wouldn't hurt. And it might even help bring out some of the finer details. So we used a watered-down black paint as a wash and brushed a beige color over the brick walls. We considered adding some additional color to the roofs, but in the end decided against it. And while painting this was never really part of the plan, we are extremely happy with how they turned out. Let us know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe, or be cursed to always have a pebble in your shoe when you put it on, no matter how much you shake it beforehand.